Welcome to Struggling Stories, where pain finds a voice and hearts speak what words never could. Every story here is real, or could be yours, so sit back and feel every heartbeat behind the struggle. In tears. She signed the divorce papers. In tears, she signed the divorce papers and tore up the pregnancy test that could have changed everything. Her world ended in silence, and no one knew she was carrying his child. Story begins. The rain hadn't stopped since the morning. Through the fogged window, Alina watched the gray sky melt into the city below. The sound of thunder echoed like the ache inside her chest. On the table before her lay two things: a pen and a paper that would end everything she once believed in. Her marriage. Her trembling hands touched the paper, and tears blurred her vision. Her lawyer's voice broke the silence. "Mrs. Alina, it's time to sign." She nodded weakly, biting her lip to stop it from shaking. She could almost hear his voice in her head, Daniel, her husband, the man she once thought she couldn't live without. "You know I love you, Alina. It's just, things have been complicated lately." Complicated. That's what he said the night she found messages on his phone. Messages that weren't meant for her. Words of affection, plans of escape, pictures that shattered her heart into dust. She picked up the pen. The metallic click sounded like a gunshot in her mind. Her tears dripped onto the paper as she signed her name, Alina Grace Foster. The lawyer gently took the papers away, but Alina stayed still, frozen, staring at her name written beneath Daniel's. Two signatures, once bound by love, now separated by betrayal. She whispered under her breath, "It's over." But it wasn't. Not completely. As she stood up to leave, her purse slipped from her hand, and something fell out, a small white stick half hidden beneath the table. Her breath caught. She bent down, picked it up, and stared at the faint pink lines that had appeared that very morning. Positive. Her knees went weak. Her eyes widened. The pen slipped from her trembling fingers. "I'm pregnant," she whispered, the words almost choking her. Her heart raced as her world spun again. This time, not with pain alone, but with confusion, fear, and a love she couldn't let go of. Within seconds, the pain turned into something darker, rage mixed with heartbreak. She looked at the paper, then at the pregnancy test. Tears streamed down her face again, but this time, they weren't silent. She screamed. Screamed for all the nights she cried alone, for the lies she believed, for the love that turned into ashes. And in that moment of fury, she tore the pregnancy test in half, the symbol of what could have been, what should have been, but never would be. The storm outside grew louder, lightning flashing across the sky like the chaos inside her heart. As the last piece of the test fell to the floor, Alina whispered again, almost brokenly, "You didn't just lose a wife, Daniel. You lost everything." She left the office, drenched in rain, walking with no umbrella, just a heart that had forgotten how to beat without pain. But little did she know, destiny wasn't done with her yet. Soft piano fades in, sound of rain slowly turning to silence. Narrator voice, soft, emotional tone. She thought signing the papers would end the pain, but some memories don't fade, they haunt you. It had been 3 months since the divorce. The city had changed its season. The rain was gone. The sun had returned. But Alina's heart still lived under dark clouds. She had moved into a small apartment on the edge of town, far from the house she once shared with Daniel. The walls here were bare, the furniture cheap, but at least it was hers. Every morning she woke up before sunrise, made herself coffee, and stood by the window, staring at the skyline. No one to say good morning, no one to ask if she was okay. Silence had become her only companion. She had hidden the secret of her pregnancy from everyone, even her closest friend. Meow, she told herself it didn't matter anymore, that she couldn't bring a child into a world built on lies. But deep down, she knew she was lying to herself. Her hand often went to her stomach, and tears would fall without warning. Sometimes she'd whisper, "I'm sorry." I couldn't be stronger. One evening, she received a call from an unknown number. She hesitated for a moment before answering. "Hello?" she said softly. "Alina, it's Daniel." Her heart stopped. His voice, familiar, calm, the same one that once promised forever. She didn't speak. "Listen," he continued, "I just wanted to know if you're okay. I've been thinking a lot about everything." Her silence burned through the phone. He sighed. "I made mistakes. I know that, but I never stopped caring." Alina laughed bitterly, a sound between a sob and a scream. "You cared? You destroyed everything, Daniel. You don't get to call now and ask if I'm okay." "I'm sorry. Alina, She ended the call before he could finish. Her hands trembled as she threw the phone onto the couch. Anger, pain, memories, everything came rushing back. She ran to the bathroom and looked at herself in the mirror. Her reflection looked like a stranger, pale, tired, broken. "Why can't I forget him?" she whispered. "Why can't I just move on?" That night she couldn't sleep. She sat on her bed, staring at an old photo album. Their wedding day, their trips, their smiles. Everything looked like a dream now. Then her phone buzzed again. This time it was a message. "Daniel, I'm sorry. I never told you the truth, but there's something you need to know." Her eyes froze on the screen. Her hands trembled as she typed back. "What truth?" No reply, only silence. Seconds turned to minutes. Minutes turned to hours, and then a notification appeared. One new voicemail. Her breath hitched as she pressed play. Daniel's voice came through, shaky, almost scared. "Alina, I don't know how to say this, but I didn't cheat on you. I swear the messages you saw, they weren't what you think. Please meet me. I'll explain everything. Just one last time." The message ended with a long silence, the kind that makes your heart forget how to beat. Alina sat frozen, her mind spinning, her heart whispering, what if he's telling the truth? The tears she thought had dried began to fall again. For months she had hated him, cursed his name, torn apart everything that reminded her of him. But now, just one voice message had brought back every question, every memory, every ache she buried. And deep inside, the tiny heartbeat she carried began to remind her she wasn't truly alone. Narrator, closing lines. She thought her story ended with a signature, but some endings are just the beginning of the truth. Music fades out. Screen turns black with text. Sometimes the truth doesn't heal. It breaks you all over again. Alina didn't sleep that night. She replayed Daniel's voicemail again and again, trying to hear every breath, every hesitation in his voice. He sounded scared. Not guilty, scared. What if he's lying again? She asked herself. But a small voice inside whispered, what if he's not? Morning light slipped through the curtains. Her coffee sat untouched on the table. After hours of confusion and silence, she finally sent a message. Alina. Meet me at the old cafe on Pine Street. 6 p.m. She stared at the screen, her heart pounding. No typing bubble appeared. No reply. But somehow, she knew he would come. The clock ticked slowly through the day. Each hour felt heavier than the last. By evening, Alina dressed simply, a black coat, her hair tied back, eyes red from lack of sleep. As she looked in the mirror, she whispered, "No more lies, Daniel. Not this time." When she reached the cafe, the air smelled of rain again, the same kind of rain that had fallen on the day she signed the divorce papers. Her fingers trembled as she opened the door. The small bell above it rang softly. He was already there. Daniel. Same brown eyes, same nervous smile. But something in him had changed. He looked thinner, older, broken. "Alina," he said, standing up quickly. "Thank you for coming." She sat down without looking at him. "Talk," he exhaled deeply, his hands shaking. "The messages you saw, they were from someone named Claire." "But she wasn't—" Alina cut him off, her voice sharp. "Wasn't what? Your lover? You think I didn't see the pictures?" He looked down, shame clouding his eyes. "She was my sister, Alina." Alina froze. "What?" she whispered. Daniel nodded. "She was my half-sister, from my father's first marriage. We didn't tell anyone because she was in trouble. She needed money, a place to stay, and I didn't want to drag you into it until things were settled. The photos you saw were of her, not what you think." Alina's mind went blank. Her pulse pounded in her ears. "No, you're lying," she said softly, shaking her head. "You're just trying to make yourself look innocent." Daniel reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a folded letter. He slid it across the table. "She died 2 weeks after you left. This letter," it was hers. "Read it." Alina hesitated, then slowly unfolded it. The handwriting was messy, trembling. "Dear Daniel, if you're reading this, it means I couldn't fix what I broke. I never meant to destroy your marriage. I thought Alina would understand one day that you were only helping me. You were the only family I had left. Please, forgive me for the pain I caused. Claire." The paper slipped from Alina's hand. Her vision blurred, tears spilled before she could stop them. Daniel's voice trembled. "I tried to tell you, but after you left, you wouldn't answer. I came to your apartment, but you had moved. I didn't want to hurt you more." Silence filled the cafe. Only the rain outside whispered through the windows. For the first time in months, Alina looked into his eyes and saw something she hadn't seen before. Truth, pain, regret. She whispered, "Why didn't you just tell me from the start?" Daniel's voice broke. "Because I was scared of losing you. And I lost you anyway." Her tears finally fell, heavy and unstoppable. Months of anger, hatred, confusion, all melting away in a flood of sorrow. "I hated you," she whispered. "Every night I hated you, but I still loved you." Daniel's eyes glistened. He reached across the table, his fingers trembling. "And I never stopped loving you, Alina." She didn't pull away this time. Their hands met halfway, a fragile touch that carried both pain and forgiveness. But then, suddenly Alina felt a sharp pain in her stomach. She gasped. Clutching her side, Daniel jumped up in panic. "Alina, what's wrong?" She winced, trying to breathe. "It's the baby." His eyes widened. "Baby? What baby?" Her voice cracked. "I didn't want to tell you. After the divorce, I found out I was pregnant." For a moment, Daniel just stood there, frozen, pale, speechless. Then tears filled his eyes. "You're carrying my child," he whispered. She nodded weakly, tears running down her cheeks. The cafe blurred around her. Everything started to spin. Daniel rushed to her side, holding her up. "Alina, stay with me. Please! Daniel!" she whispered faintly. "I thought I lost everything." He held her close, whispering back, "You didn't. Not anymore." The cafe owner called an ambulance. Within minutes, flashing red lights filled the street. Daniel stayed by her side all the way to the hospital, holding her hand tightly, afraid to let go again. Hours later, under the cold hospital lights, the doctor came out with a faint smile. "She's stable, and the baby is fine." Daniel broke down in relief, his head in his hands. For the first time, he prayed, not for forgiveness, but for another chance. When Alina woke up, Daniel was sitting beside her, eyes swollen, face pale but filled with love. She looked at him weakly and whispered, "I don't know if I can trust you again." He smiled through his tears. "Then let me earn it, every single day." Sometimes love breaks to rebuild itself. Sometimes the storm doesn't destroy you. It washes you clean. They say time heals all wounds. But what if the wound becomes part of who you are? The hospital room was quiet. Only the faint sound of the heart monitor filled the air. Steady, calm, alive. Alina slowly opened her eyes. The ceiling lights blurred above her. Her body felt weak, but her heart, it was strangely at peace. Beside her bed sat Daniel, asleep in a chair, his head resting on his folded arms. He hadn't moved all night. She looked at him silently, her heart caught between forgiveness and fear. The man who once shattered her world was now the same man who refused to leave her side. Her hand moved slowly and brushed against his. He woke instantly. "Hey," he whispered, his eyes red from tears. "How are you feeling?" "Alive," she said softly, a small smile forming. "That's something," he smiled weakly. "You scared me, Alina. I thought—" His voice cracked before he could finish. She looked down at her stomach. "The baby?" she whispered. Daniel nodded, tears glistening in his eyes. "Safe. You both are." A wave of relief washed over her. For the first time in months, she didn't feel alone. There was life, growing inside her, and perhaps between them too. Days passed. Daniel stayed at the hospital every single day. He brought her food, helped her walk, and read aloud from her favorite book every evening. He didn't ask for forgiveness, he earned it, quietly, one act of care at a time. One afternoon, as sunlight poured into the room, Alina finally said the words she had held back. "Daniel, I want to believe you. I really do. But every time I close my eyes, I still see the messages, the photos, the hurt." Daniel nodded. "I know, and I don't expect you to forget. But I'll spend the rest of my life proving that you can trust me again." He took her hand gently. "I've already lost you once. I'm not going to lose you again." Her eyes filled with tears. "And what if you do everything right? And I still can't love you the same?" Daniel smiled sadly. "Then at least I'll know I tried." Weeks later, Alina was discharged. She returned to her apartment. The same small, lonely place, but this time it felt different. Daniel helped her settle in, made her tea, and lingered near the door. "I should go," he said softly. She looked up. "You don't have to." He paused, hope flickering in his eyes. "I don't?" She shook her head. "No, stay for dinner just as a friend." A faint smile crossed his face. "As a friend," he repeated. But they both knew. It was more than that. Days turned into weeks. They began spending time together again. Slow, gentle, cautious, morning walks, quiet dinners, laughter that had been lost for too long. And in those small moments, they began to heal. One evening, Alina sat on the balcony, her hand resting on her growing belly. Daniel joined her with 2 cups of tea. "The sunset painted the sky orange and gold. Remember when you said you didn't believe in second chances?" he asked. Alina smiled faintly. "Maybe I was wrong." Daniel looked at her. "So, does that mean—" she interrupted softly. "It means we start over, slowly, honestly." He nodded, tears glistening in his eyes. "Then I'll never let you fall again." For a while they sat in silence, watching the sun fade behind the city skyline. But peace, as always, never lasts forever. Late one night, Alina woke to the sound of her phone buzzing. Half asleep, she reached for it and froze. It was a message from an unknown number. The words made her heart stop. "You don't know the whole truth about Daniel." Her fingers trembled. She opened the message. A photo appeared, a blurry image of Daniel, standing outside a hospital, talking to someone, a woman. Her heart raced. The text continued. "He's hiding something again." Alina's breath caught in her throat. "No. No, not again," she whispered. She stared at the photo, her world spinning all over again. Tears welled up in her eyes as the phone slipped from her trembling hand. Outside, the wind howled, and the rain began to fall once more. She thought she had found peace, but sometimes the past doesn't die. It just waits for the right moment to return. She rebuilt her world piece by piece. But sometimes, the truth returns, not to heal you, but to destroy everything you've rebuilt. Alina sat frozen on the couch, the phone still glowing in her shaking hands. The photo, Daniel with a woman outside the hospital. The message, he's hiding something again. Her mind spun in circles. Her chest tightened as old wounds began to reopen. No, she whispered to herself. Not again. Not this time. She wanted to believe it was fake, maybe a cruel prank. But the fear in her heart refused to let her rest. She stared at the photo again and again, zooming in, trying to recognize the woman's face. She couldn't. Her heart said, trust him. Her scars said, don't. The next morning, Daniel came to her apartment as usual, holding a bag of groceries and a warm smile. Morning, he said, placing the bag on the counter. You look tired. Rough night? Alina stared at him, silent, cold, unreadable. Daniel, she said finally, who were you with at the hospital last night? His smile faded instantly. He blinked, caught off guard. What are you talking about? She showed him the phone, the picture on screen glowing between them. This, who is she? Daniel froze. His face turned pale. His eyes, wide with shock, guilt, or fear, she couldn't tell. Alina, listen to me. Don't lie, she shouted, tears breaking free. Don't you dare lie to me again! The room went silent. Only her shaky breathing and the ticking clock filled the space. He lowered his head, whispering, I was going to tell you. I just needed time. Tell me what? She demanded. What else are you hiding from me, Daniel? He sat down slowly, rubbing his face with his hands. She's not another woman, Alina. She's Claire's daughter. Alina froze, her heart skipping a beat. Claire's... What? Daniel nodded slowly. Her name is Emily. She's 15. When Claire died, I found out she had a daughter, my niece. She's been sick. I've been helping her get treatment at the hospital. Alina's breath caught in her throat. Why didn't you tell me? He looked at her with tired, pleading eyes. Because I didn't want you to think I was lying again. I wanted to protect you. And our baby. From more stress. Her eyes filled with tears again. So you hid it from me. You made the same mistake again. Alina, please! He tried to reach her hand, but she pulled away. I can't keep doing this, Daniel, she cried. I can't love you with half-truths and broken promises. I'm tired of being the one who keeps forgiving. Daniel stood there, silent, his eyes wet, his face pale. He whispered, You said you wanted honesty. So here it is. I was scared you'd leave again. I thought if I told you about Emily, you'd think I was lying, that I hadn't changed. I just didn't want to lose you. She turned away, tears streaming down her face. Maybe you already have. That night, Alina packed a small bag, not because she hated him, but because she was drowning again in the same pain she had barely escaped before. She looked around the apartment one last time. The laughter, the quiet dinners, the promises, they all replayed like a movie she couldn't pause. Daniel knocked softly on the bedroom door. Alina, please. Don't go, her voice broke. You had a choice, Daniel. To tell me the truth, to trust me. And you didn't, he whispered. I'm sorry. I'll fix it. She shook her head. Some things can't be fixed, and not twice. Hours later, rain started to fall again, heavy, relentless. Just like the night it all began. Alina stood on the sidewalk, suitcase in hand, staring up at the sky. Her tears mixing with the rain, she whispered to herself, maybe love isn't about staying. Maybe it's about knowing when to walk away. Her phone buzzed again. It was a message from Daniel. Daniel. You deserve peace, even if it's not with me. Take care of our child. I'll always love you. She stared at the screen, her hands trembling. Then slowly, she placed her phone in her pocket and walked away. This time, for good. Months passed. Alina gave birth to a beautiful baby girl. Soft brown eyes, the same as her father's. She named her Hope. Every time she looked into her daughter's eyes, She saw pain and healing, endings and beginnings. Daniel never came back, not in person, but every month. A letter arrived. No sender name, just one line written neatly at the bottom. For hope, from someone who never stopped loving you. Narrator, soft, emotional tone. Sometimes, love isn't lost. It just changes form. It lives on, in memories, in lessons, in the people we create. Alina's story didn't end in heartbreak. It ended in strength. Soft piano fades out. Sound of baby laughter echoes faintly in background. The end. This was the story of Alina, a woman who walked through storms and still chose peace. If this story touched your heart, subscribe for more real emotions only on Struggling Stories.